And now it's time for our main attraction. I'm not even going to give her a long introduction because you all know her and you all love her. I am going to say this, though. Be nice to her because she has an in with the mayor. And she's going to help us get this place opened up for more people. Yay! No pressure. Please help me welcome our own beloved Rabbi Rachel Short.
No pressure though, right? She has an in with the mayor. That's a good one. We had our big Passover Seder last night, so I'm like a little spiritually, emotionally fatigued. I'll be totally honest with you. But Mayor was there, and he recently had to leave our board for conflict of interest reasons. And he got up and did our pitch for the money. We call it Mitch's Pitches for the Riches. He got up and did our pitch for money, and he said, Rabbi told me that the only way I could leave the board was if I came back and did this pitch. So that's why I'm here, and I listened. So we're hoping that he's going to listen when it comes to lifting some of the bans. I think we're all kind of tired of the restrictions as a whole. I know that it's not just his decision, though, and he and I talk personally a lot about that, about how there's a lot resting on his shoulders, and it's not only him making a lot of these calls right now. And it's a weird time for all of us. I mean, at least for me, having Passover last night, and for the first time, I was so grateful that we got to have a Seder in person. Last year, I had to stand in Sweet Cane Cafe and talk to a camera and like eat on my plate by myself, and there were 4 people there. And then same thing with Rosh Hashanah and everything. So for me, I was really grateful because here I still get to come up and speak, but I haven't been able to be with the Jewish community doing our tradition. So to be able to actually do that in person, I get a little verklempt. I tear up. You take these things for granted, honestly. And then when they happen again, you're like, oh my gosh, these are the little things that just like really fill my soul. So I stand up here before all you guys today, honestly drained because I led a 5-hour service, but also totally recharged at the same time because I got to be with community. I got to do our traditions. I got to do what it is we've been wanting to do for so long. And the story of Passover, the story of Exodus, the story of liberation to freedom, the journey of slavery to liberation, excuse me, not liberation to freedom, but you know what I meant. Slavery to liberation and liberation into freedom really echoes, I think, what we've been going through as a whole and as a collective. I can't be the only one who sees the similarities between everything that happened in the Torah, in what everybody knows as the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus, with Moses and Miriam and leading the people out of Egypt. And as I spoke about last night, the way all those things happen. I mean, Moses, let's just talk about Moses for a second. Moses didn't want the job that God gave him. Not sure if anybody knows that. I can kind of relate to Moses in that way. I have this same talk with God quite frequently, like, really? Really? He had to pick a 5-foot-tall Jewish girl from Kansas to start the first and only synagogue and Jewish community on the Big Island. All right, we'll do this. But Moses was actually this lowly boy with a speech impediment who God was giving the 10 Commandments to and calling on all these things to do. And he was like, I don't really want to be doing this. And he fought this mission. It's not like Moses stood up and was like, here I am, ready to lead the people. No, not at all. Moses was like, God, you really could find someone else. But continued to trust that voice in the burning bush and see these little signs and know that he was there for a reason. And Moses gets a lot of the heroism from the Exodus story, the Passover story, which I'll talk a little bit about because I have to. I'm a rabbi. It's the second day of Passover. We had our first night of Seder last night. We'll have our second Seder tonight. But his sister Miriam was also a huge, huge, huge part of the story. Let's start from the beginning. Passover Seder. The word Seder means order. So the meal and the service that we're actually participating in, everything goes in a certain order. And the order is so we can tell this story of Exodus. So it starts with Moses being sent down a basket, right, in the river, in the water, and his sister Miriam being the one to do that because Pharaoh had ordered for all the Jewish babies to be killed. So really, there's no other way to put it. The Jews were slaves in Egypt. The pyramids you see today, everybody kind of wants to forget how those were built, but it was Jewish slave labor, if we just want to be really real and frank about it. And it was not a good time to be alive in Egypt. It was not a good time to be a Jew. The midwives in Egypt actually ended up saving more Jewish lives than Moses or anyone else themselves, because they couldn't bear to see new life taken. So they actually lied about a lot of the births that were being done to Pharaoh and didn't say that they were Jewish boys being born. But so Moses' sister Miriam puts him in a basket and sends him down the river. Pharaoh's daughter finds Moses and takes her as his own. They were able to work it out so that Moses' own mother was his wet nurse. So he nursed with his own mother until she was weaned. And then he went off into the palace to be a prince. He was Pharaoh's son, right? He was the Pharaoh's daughter's son or whatever, right? Kind of. My brain, I'm just not going to lie. It's really tired. I'll be totally honest. They were all in the family together. Moses is a prince. He sees Pharaoh beating a Jewish slave one day. And he is starting to discover his Jewish roots more and more. And in a moment of what some would consider blasphemy, he steps up to Pharaoh and he says, "Enough." And that's kind of when there was a red flag moment. I have the rhyme that I shared last night that, of course, I'm going to share with you guys today, where I'm going to tell a little bit more in the Passover story in there. But I feel more called to share about the Exodus that we're going through now. I don't think Exodus is this thing. I'm going to get really emotional, guys. I've been really emotional last night and again today. I'm just going to be totally honest. I'm not going to apologize for crying. It's very vulnerable for me. Exodus is always a really, really vulnerable one for me. Because to me, an Exodus is a symbolism, the awakening, the representation of a bigger liberation within yourself. To me, every story that we read in the Torah, that we read in any of our ancient sacred texts from our mystics, our sages, our seers, esoteric knowledge, is all a call to make us look deeper. And it's an archetype for a representation of what we ourselves are going through, a journey, a story we ourselves are going through. Many people don't know, because I don't talk about it very often, because it feels like a past life. But long before I was a rabbi, long before I was a Reiki master teacher, long before I was a yoga teacher, I was a jazzercise instructor. And I injured myself teaching jazzercise and ended up being diagnosed with an incurable illness, finding myself paralyzed and told I would never walk again. This is when my spiritual awakening began. And I remember saying really vividly, and I have journal entries about it, I don't talk about this ever. I don't know why I'm being called to share, but here it goes. I remember saying that it was my exodus, that I was being called to liberate myself from something more, that there was pain and there was ancestral trauma and there was literally a frozenness in my body, that if I could find a way and I could come through, and if I could find that power in myself, I would be able to teach other people that power. For me, it started with the awareness that I had done that to myself in every sense of the way. That I could blame my ancestors, I could blame everybody else, but my thoughts, my emotions, my feelings, my choices had created the very situation that I found myself in. So this made me stop and have a moment. Whoa. If I'm powerful enough to paralyze myself, I can be powerful enough to unparalyze myself. And this is when I began manifesting. The manna that God sent down from heaven to Moses and the people was the manifest, the power to manifest. The Moses Code is him standing before the Red Sea saying, my teeth are chattering, I'm so cold right now, guys. Sorry if that's a distraction. I am that I am, and believing that. So when we know that we are powerful, we are capable, we are enough, that is the manna coming down from heaven, manifesting through us. So obviously I'm not paralyzed anymore. I went off all drugs. I didn't do any of the treatments they recommended. The doctor told me I was insane. They wanted to do a sympathetic nerve block injection into my spine. It was the only way that I would be able to stop this horrific disease that was known as complex regional pain syndrome, that was an incurable illness. I told God that if I went through that and I came out on the other side of the exodus to freedom, I would spend the rest of my life teaching other people that same power, like teaching love. And here I stand before you talking about Exodus 10 years later, almost to the date. It's kind of weird, but it's not weird at all. And I obviously went on to cure that incurable illness. No drugs, no nothing. Essential oils, change of diet, and the power of my mind. Truly, truly the power of my mind above anything else. They did a bunch of case studies on me. I was the first person on record that had ever overcome this incurable illness. And then I actually was able to go on and help a few other people overcome that same incurable illness. People who had had it for 10, 15 years have been struggling much longer than I have. And even now in my personal life, I'm going through another exodus right now. And I think we all really need to look at what Exodus truly symbolizes. In Exodus is any time you realize that you have been in a situation that is taking away your power. Your power. Your power is God. You are God. Pretty simple. I know this to be true. I know this to be fact. Jesus knew this to be true. This is the truth. You are God in motion. So if you understand the power that gives you life, gives you breath, makes it so you don't ever have to think, you don't ever have to do, you could truly just be, and you trust in that space, that power flows through you. So as we sit here in a time of what I know is another exodus in our history, not only for us personally, but as a collective, coronavirus and COVID-19 is what I've been calling the 11th plague. In the story of Exodus, what happens? There's 10 plagues, right? Frogs, well, we have the Koki frogs here, don't we? Locusts, I mean, we do have fire ants, I'm just gonna say. Yep. Fire, I mean, I could go on and on and on. But at what point do we stop the way Moses and everybody else back in that time had to stop and recognize that these were plagues? That we were being called to liberate ourselves, not call upon those in power anymore, but call upon ourselves for our power. I love Mitch, but the mayor isn't going to do it for us. President Biden's not going to do it for us. That is not the way change happens. Moses was not a politician. Moses was a boy with a speech impediment who became a shepherd herding sheep and literally was like, God, please just let me be with my sheep and leave me alone. But that didn't happen, did it? And we're grateful that didn't happen. Because if that didn't happen, would we be able to tell the story of Exodus? Would I have been able to begin my own Exodus? Where I know that on every time on the other side, there's liberation and there's freedom. My grandfather passed away on Passover. So it's a really tender holiday for me. It's the most important Jewish festival of the year. It's a time of celebration. It was always his favorite holiday, so I know for a fact that's why he chose to go on Passover. And my grandma passed away recently, and this is my first Passover without her. And yesterday morning, I had a dream, and they were both in my dream. And I woke up, and I looked out the window, and there was this huge rainbow just right in the window. And I've seen a rainbow every day since my grandfather passed. And to me, it was that sign that God gives us of the rainbow, which is, I've never forgotten you and I'm never going to forget you, but you have to do the work. You have to lead the Exodus. You have to listen to my call, come to the Red Sea, say I am that I am, and part that. You have to free yourselves from your own slavery, mental slavery, slaves to our devices, slave to the ego, the need for attention from other people. Drugs, beer, anything that numb, we are slaves to, whether or not we truly want to look at it. Liberation comes from within. Liberation starts grassroots with small people who say, enough is enough. I have the power to change, and I'm going to change it. And I'm not going to sit here and blame anybody else, because I am that I am, and I am that God energy flowing through. Oh, sorry guys. Sorry, not sorry. We're in this time of loss and grief and death and rebirth and renewal. We come through the equinox, we come out of darkness into light. On our Seder plate, we have an egg which symbolizes fertility and the growth of spring. We have parsley that symbolizes the very same thing, green, rebirth. But we take that piece of parsley and we dip it into salt water, which is the symbolism of our ancestors' tears. Because we have to know where we came from in order to know where we are going. Because history repeats itself if we don't learn from the past. And that is why it's commanded, and it's Seder order, to tell the story of Exodus, to tell the story of Passover every year, over and over again, multiple nights in a row, so that we never forget that we were slaves. But we're free now. I could talk about Palm Sunday. I'll acknowledge Palm Sunday. I'll be honest, I don't know Palm Sunday. I'm a rabbi. I know it's the beginning of Holy Week. I know that it marks the beginning of Jesus returning and that part of renewal. It was funny, someone just said to me, actually coming in, I have to share this. If you want to understand Center for Spiritual Living in a nutshell, we had a female rabbi lead our Easter service last year. And here I am on Palm Sunday. But to me, it's the second day of Passover. It's the second day of freedom and liberation. So I encourage everybody who's watching, encourage everybody who's sitting here to just reflect on the idea of Exodus. See where you yourself are enslaved in some way that you don't realize. Because a lot of times we confuse comfort and security with slavery. And we get so complacent, and we get so stuck, and we've been in a situation for so long that we can't even look outside and within to see how truly toxic or abusive or not good for our highest good it truly is. And when we get the strength to begin our own exodus, when we believe that miracles are possible, and we know more than anything, this is the first part of manifesting, that we are worthy of a miracle. That's when miracles happen. So this rhyme I'm about to share with you all, I said I shared last night. Well, I'm just going to share. I'm not going to give you my thought on it at all. Here we go. Oy vey. I have so much to say about why we're here now together today, why we're telling this story in this way, but right now it's kind of scary to be in the gray. I'm holding space for deep healing, keeping ego at bay, hoping we can move forward to a new day. As we tell this story, in this space I shall stay, because our ancestors' debts I know we do pay. I've said it before, the divine's watching like, hey, I put you here for a reason. You were chosen to slay. You are the light, the sun and moon ray. You chose to be here, come what may. You know it's true, because you're here. In the ground you don't lay. This story that's been told for thousands of years, that's helped us get through, confronted our fears, honoring our ancestors, tasting their tears. But this year, I believe, it shifts up a gear. We've had to rise up, find a new path to steer. As we listen to this story, we do more than just hear. This story is sacred. Why we hold it so dear? We'd like to think it's the past. Slavery is in the rear. But I'm here to tell you, Exodus is near. The wisdom of our ancestors, mystic sages and seers. It's more than relevant here and now. I don't need to ask why, but I do have to ask how. I look around me and I'm kind of like, wow, have we survived? Is this plague pow? Is it because all around us to idols we bow? Or is it because we're caught up with the stocks and the Dow? Is it because our earth is crying from the turtles to the cows? I feel God is screaming from the homeless to the meows. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I only know truth and I will not pretend. There are those among us you want to think are your friends, but I've seen it before, how it really ends. What happens when we stray and the sacred we bend? We are here now so the world can mend. Your life is not yours. From God you do lend, and you wouldn't be here if for yourself you couldn't fend. There are big things happening. To our spirits we must tend. The message is here clearly. The divine hit send. This story more relevant now than ever. I don't need to say anything witty or clever. We haven't been together in what feels like forever. To our homes we've been forced to tether. And we only get one moment, now or never. How do we reflect? How do we measure? How do we know that this plague we surely can weather? Passover this year still feels really weird. Something is different, let me be clear. This moment symbolizes love versus fear, the battle we've been fighting for too long, my dear. Addicted to our devices, drugs and beer, we see these things now, not in the future or rear. When I'm quiet and still, God's voice I hear, telling me it's time to kick things up a gear. There's something big happening. Coincidences aren't mere. You are here now for a reason. To big shift we are near. We stand supported on post and pier, but we must do the work, move forward without fear. Just like our ancestors, I'm sure they didn't know, then deciding to leave Egypt would make them heroes. That their epic battle, their hardship and woes would be the exodus that everyone now knows. That it would be this story that can help everyone grow. The divine speaks in all ways, not just poetry or prose. I see with my eyes, I smell with my nose, I hear with my ears, and I stand on my toes. On the earth beneath me, as it heals and grows, viruses running rampant, volcano blows. Canals running clean, rivers again flow. The earth reminded us all, it's time to go slow. The yin and the yang have been out of flow, the rise of the feminine taking over the bros. The yang ignites us, the fire that glows, and the yin reminds us we all need to go slow. On the seventh day God rested, this we all know, but we seem to have forgotten how to go in slow-mo. As I've said before in many a way, we may not be building pyramids today, but that's because we're too busy filling 401ks. This is all too real now in a whole new way. We are all heading for a big judgment day. To me, it looks like a rainbow in a sky that's gray, reminding us all to go inward and pray. That the divine speaks to us still, just in a different way. And this is our revolution, now I must say. There's something big happening in our world today. The 11th plague is here, folks, come what may. We can choose to ignore that and hope it just goes away, or we can look what this virus was really trying to say. We've been so disconnected, we've kept so much at bay, that the divine can't sit quiet or wait one more day. We must part the Red Sea and move towards a new day, this story we tell in a whole new way. Our moral fabric, the fibers do fray, and for our choices, I believe we do pay. We're being called to wake up, look at things a new way, the power of awareness for what is come what may. I believe when we get ill, wounded, or sick, it's opportunity to go inward, to find something that clicks. The divine communicates through you when you're healthy and sick. Your body is the easiest to access and click. Sending you messages, trying to find what sticks, our body is often the route that it picks. So to me, it seems our world as a whole, the entire collective should be feeling this pull. To look beyond the surface, on our eyes there is wool. Peel back the layers, choose to see this in full. Being is action. This is anything but a lull. I've spoken for years about what I did fear. I saw our enslavement, unfortunately, too clear. The words I believe that I did say were all slaves to technology or money in some way. Modern day slavery is the debt that we're in. My ancestors support me, and I call them in. Now we're all forced to sit behind our device for pretty much everything, which some might find nice. But I think there's more. We're paying the price for living behind our devices instead of in life. We need to return to the sacred and connect once more. Once the virus passes over, way more than before. Recognize this connection that we're missing now more. We have neglected, taken for granted for sure. We've lost the present moment. We view it as a bore, a means to an end, always looking for more. Not being in nature, but alone on the floor, trapped to our phones, neglecting our core. The time is now. To new heights we can soar. It can be rainbows and butterflies instead of horror and gore. We're writing our story. This is our lore. Can we part the sea? Can we open the door? Can we find a new way to feel safe and secure? Heal the root of the collective core. We are all one, rich or poor. We're all wearing masks to go to the store. We all washed our hands at that Seder for sure. Social distancing too, even more than before. But we already were, now it's just way more. Can we see this sign? Can we hear the divine roar? Calling you now with no either or. The story of Exodus we all seem to know is how miracles happen when you choose to let go. Know your source, your being will glow. You are the light, you are the rainbow. We're being called to root down, rise up and grow. To find stillness and peace, choose to go slow. Be in nature like the dove or the doe, all part of what is, the one we all know. We are our creator, we are the flow. Under this full moonlight, this I say, for a better world, I do pray, for us to choose love, come what may, be the rainbow and know the gray. From our hearts and our core and our center we do stray. We are in Egypt as it began to fray. Pharaoh is the oppressor in every way. What are you enslaved to? What keeps you at bay? Do you want to part the Red Sea or in slavery stay because you've confused feeling safe with giving your power away? We've chosen security over love and play. We're all still slaves, just in a different way. The story of Exodus, come what may, calls us to look deeper beyond the sun ray. You are Moses and Miriam, you lead the way. The moment is now. This is the day. Moses seemed to have it all. An Egyptian prince, he was having a ball. But he heard that voice no matter how small. He trusted his mission, the divine call. The burning bush set aflame. Moses' inner fire he needed to tame. Be patient and learn, play the game. Choose to take action, look back and reframe. Slavery and persecution, judgment and pain, all for Pharaoh's profits and gains. Moses wouldn't be a sheep. He used his brain. He was the shepherd. The sheep he did train. There's dark forces at large. They're in charge, watching our every move from near and far. And the battle wages on between darkness and light. This is our battle our ancestors fight. Can we choose to be happy instead of right? Can we choose love in the face of fright? Question everything, find deeper insight. Stand up for freedom with all of our might. Honor the wisdom that comes through at night, the moon in the sky shining so bright. There's esoteric knowledge that's our divine right. The choice is yours if your tongue you choose to bite. I will use my voice, let it soar like the kite. Speak the truth, whether or not I am liked. Because I speak for the one who's bigger than me, the one who spoke to Moses and Miriam and helped them to be free, who led our ancestors out of slavery, still communicating right now with you and me. We just have to learn to listen differently. The divine voice is loud if we hear it clearly. So as we're together as one on this Passover day, I pray that we can remember how to pray. Find our exodus, stay out of our own way. We are headed towards freedom. There dawns a new day. Don't get lost in the chaos. Let your mind go astray. Now is the time to go inward and stay. The power of awareness is your sword to slay. We all have our karma, our debts we do pay. Question everything. It's all shades of gray. I know you are supported by what is come what may. Biblical times we are living today. Do you see it too? How this is all really cray? Our ancestors' trauma we are taking away when we choose love and let all fear decay. Step into the light, be that ray, wrap yourself in the warmth that is the divine lay. Say what it is you need to say. Is it so simple to just stay humble, pray? Honor your boundaries, know when to say nay. You're being called to leave Pharaoh at bay. Hag Sameach, Mahalo, Shaloha, Namaste. Thank you, everybody. Sorry if that was a little long this week.
Did she say she was tired? Wow. Thank you, Rabbi Rachel. You never fail to inspire us and to make us remember what's important. We so appreciate that. Yeah.